So what we're talking about today is racks. We're going to be talking about drum racks, instrument racks, effect racks, and maybe a little bit of MIDI racks and MIDI effects as well. But mostly we're going to be talking about these different racks. What is she chewing on? Whatever, I'll let her chew on that. So let's just start with a little bit of a review real quick about how we actually put instruments onto tracks, just in case you've forgotten how to do that. What you do is you go up here to your instruments in here, and what's up, y'all? Hold on one second, let me get all these people who are coming in late. Cool, all right. So we come in here into our instruments, and we say I want to drag the analog or collision or whatever onto a track. I can drag it, just remember you just drag it straight onto the track. So this is my analog synth here. And right, so there's this analog synth here. And this analog synth, right, I can put some effects after it. So let me go ahead and grab a sound out of here. Let's grab some kind of a, let's grab like a keyboard type of sound. There we go. Right? Yep. So now I can put any kind of effect after it that I want to. So I'm just going to go over here to my MIDI effects, and let's grab an amp and cabinet. Right, so here's this. Let's put a little reverb on here as well. And let's find the right reverb that we like. There we go. Right? And if I want to, I can also let's put a little delay on there as well. Let's go ahead and set this up. And we can set these up slightly differently in just a second. But let's get a little delay going on here with, which is the one that might be the most fun to use. Delay, I guess, is fine, but echo. Let's use echo. Let's use this. Cool, so there's that, and we'll put a little filter on it. Dial that back, make it ping pong. There we go, cool. Right, so we got that sound there. And what we're gonna do is, let's just say we like that, we wanna keep that, so we can use that in other songs. So to make a rack, an instrument rack here, all I do is just highlight them by holding down Shift. I highlight everything down here, and I hit Command G. And that's all we have to do. That's like the basics of it. You hit Command G, and that groups them together. If you want to use, here I can ungroup them by hitting Command Shift G. Just highlight them all, hold down Shift. You can click each one individually if you want, or you can click on one at the end and then scroll all the way to the other end and hold down Shift and click it. And you can go over here to under, let's see, is it under Edit? Yeah, under Edit, Group. I just remember the shortcut for it, which is Command G, to group them together. And once you do that, that puts them inside of this little box here. Now, the little box might be easier to see if you click on this button right here, which is your macros area. That shows these macros, but it also lets us see this little naming area a little bit better. So I can rename it, Command R. We'll call this one keys E piano amped, whatever. So now all I have to do is just save that, and it puts it into my user area, and there we go. So anything that is an instrument rack is right here. Now we're going to come back and go a little bit deeper into that. What's up, Josh? How you doing? We're going to go a little bit deeper into this in just a second. But that's the basics for creating instrument rack. And all the racks are essentially the same. The drum rack is a little bit different, but not too much different. But the instrument rack and the effect racks are all the same. The only difference between an instrument rack and an effect rack is that the instrument rack has an instrument plus effects, and the effect rack only has effects. So instrument racks are good for if I have like a sound that I've made using a synthesizer, like a soft synth, and I want to always have these effects on it to give it some character, then I can group them and save that as an instrument rack. The effect rack is good for just effects. For example, if I want to have effects for my drums, or if I want to have effects for a vocalist, or if I want to have effects for something like a hall with a filter on it or something like that, I can put those together and always bring them up really quickly and easily. And I'm going to show you some examples later on about how I use effect racks. I use effect racks all the time. I use instrument racks sometimes for different things. But I'm going to show you, excuse me, I'm going to show you later like different uses, different real world uses for these things, okay? So we're going to come back and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete this out. And we're going to pull up a drum rack. And I can pull up a drum rack by going into my drum section here and pulling up my drum rack right there. Or I can go into instruments, and drum rack is also right here. It's exactly the same on both places. And what it does is it pulls up this kind of pre-made rack of pads. And each of these cells here can hold a sample or an instrument. And you can see this is a grid of 16. But if we look over on the left-hand side, you can see over here there's all these little squares here. These are all grids of 16. And this is basically representing an entire keyboard. So it's 128 keys, an entire keyboard meaning an entire MIDI keyboard. So it's actually 128 different cells, and they call them pads. 128 different pads, and you can put samples or instruments on every single pad. So you can have 128 different sounds in here. Your only limit is your CPU processor power or your RAM, something like that. So if you have like short drum sounds, it's not going to be a big problem. But if you have really big, long sounds, it's going to be a little bit more of a problem. But you can drag samples onto these. So here's how we do this. Super, super easy. Just go in here to your drum section, and I'm going to grab some drum hits. I'm going to make my own kit real quick. So I'm just going to go in here to drum hits. I click on this little button here, and I go down here and I say, okay, let's find a kick drum. Let's find a kick drum. Oh no, or my, oh wait. Oh no, oh interesting. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not letting me play those. Oh, what's up, Victorious? How you doing? Okay, here we go. Let's use one of these kick drums here. Let's use this chunky 90s kick here. And I'm going to drag this down to whatever key I want to put it on. Now these keys, these pads down here, these represent the keys on a keyboard. So we can see that that said C1, that's this key right here on the keyboard. C1 is that key on the keyboard. So we got that one there. We're going to go back up and grab let's grab a snare drum. I wonder why these don't play. Interesting. Anyway. Let's use that one there. I'm going to drag that down here to D1 right there. So now I've got a kick drum here. I've got a snare drum here. You know, so I can do like that. Let's put some hi-hats in here. Let's put a hand clap as well. Hand clap, 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 clap. That's fine. You're going to go on D sharp, and let's do a rim shot here. No, that's not a rim shot, that's a ride. There we go, rim. Do that one on C sharp. And I'm actually putting these on specific places. And I'm going to explain that in just a second. Use that one there on F sharp. Put this one on. Put this one on A sharp, and let's get another. Let's use this one for a G sharp there. Okay, there's some of those hi-hats, and let's grab some tom drums, some toms here. Let's see here. Yeah, let's use these here. And I'll put these on A and G. There we go. E and F. I'll use some different snares. Let's grab a couple different snares. Go down here. That's a cool snare. And there we go. There's another cool snare. All right, cool. So let's get a cymbal smash and a percussion sound, and we'll call it a day. Let's see here. Percussion, miscellaneous percussion. Yeah, we'll use this clave, plock, 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 plock. And then C, we'll put a cymbal, like a crash cymbal. All right, that one sounds pretty cool. There we go. So now we have a drum kit on here. So you can see if I... So now I've got these drum sounds on here. And if I want to stop here, I can stop here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a name right down here and say, hit Command R to rename. We'll call this one Tony Kit 2111 A1. There we go. And how do you map it to the drum pad? You don't map it to the drum pad. You just pay attention to what keys you're putting it on here. Oh, you mean these drum pads here? Well, these drum pads here are actually just keys on your keyboard. These are the same as these here. Every keyboard has different notes for these, but most of them are mapped to the same ones as these right here. And then you're just putting it onto the drum pad you want it to be on what key. So if you look down here, see how these different note numbers on them? That's what key it's going to be on your keyboard. So this does require that you know a little bit about which key numbers are which on your keyboard, but that's something that you'll get used to after you've just done this enough times. And it doesn't take that much to get used to, like, oh, okay, C1, C2, whatever. You just drag them and drop them onto whatever key you want them on your keypad. Okay, you don't change the. You can change it, but don't worry about that. Like, don't do that. That's like way overkill. Just drag them onto the place you want. All right, so what we're gonna do now is save this, and you just save it by clicking the little save button right there. And it's going to put it in here under your drum racks. Tony Kit 2111 A1, boom, there we go. And you can see I've got a couple of drum racks in here. I don't really keep my drum racks here. I actually will drag them over to the plugins area here. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But now, when I go back in here, if I want to find them again, I go to my user library, go to my drum racks, my instrument racks, all that stuff, and I can just find them right here. So I can delete this and drag it back in, and there we go. Now, that's pretty cool. This is pretty neat, but remember I said that it puts you can put a sample or an instrument on here. Now, it's interesting because the way it works is actually like that. When you drag a sample on here, it's not just putting a sample on a pad. What it's doing is it's actually putting the sample into a drum, a simpler instrument. That's one of the instruments that comes with Ableton Live. And it's putting the sample into this instrument or this device on this rack. Okay, so it's actually automatically creating this device for me and putting it on this this pad here. So that's actually what's happening in the background. So every time you drag this in, it's going to put it into this here, but it does it like automatically. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to think about it. You just drag in a sample from anywhere and it just automatically does this part for you. But that's what it's doing. And next week, we're going to talk more about our simpler sampler and stuff like that. We're going to talk about using samples in Ableton Live and how to do sampling and stuff like that in Ableton Live and in Pro Tools. So that's so don't worry if you're a little bit confused about that. We're going to talk about that. So next I want to show you though is how to put an instrument like a synthesizer in here as well. And what we're going to use is I'm going to use one that I like for this is Massive from Native Instruments. And I left my hard drive at the studio over the weekend, so I don't think I need my hard drive for Massive though. I think this one works without the hard drive. So I've got this in here. I'm just going to go to my browser and go in here and let's grab a percussion sound, some kind of a, where does it say? Type drums. Here we go, drums. Here's this. Let's see here. Okay. There's some missing because some of these are, let's see what, yeah, some of these are missing because of, I don't have my hard drive plugged in. Here, I'll do, no, let's just listen to these. Okay, here we go, hand drum. This is a good one here. Hand drum. Now, what's cool about this is I'm just playing this by triggering this key right here. And I did that because I dragged the instrument onto that note. So when I play it, it's actually playing Massive. And with Massive, because it's a synth, I can actually change all these parameters in real time. You can change all these. And you can hear how much you can do with it in real time. So you can do a lot more with it than just like a regular sample. Now, in order for this to work though, it is triggering Massive. And so that means that it's going to use more of your CPU power than a sample would. So, and you can see in my case, every time I hit it, it doesn't actually do that much to my processor here. It's just like a little bit over here. Depending on your computer, it's going to affect that more or less. Okay. So let's go ahead and just program in a little drum beat here real quick. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Turn on the quantize. cool. All right, cool. So we got that little thing there. Let's lay over this thing on top of it. So cool. And what we can do is we can set this up so that we've got different automation points here for these things. And there we go. So now I can go ahead and record some automation in here. There we go. Cool. And so you can hear how much I can do with it. Just by having that synth in there really changes things around a lot. And so that's the power of the drum rack. I mean, the drum rack is super cool, super powerful. You can do so much with it and really kind of open up this whole other world of possibilities by using synthesizers. And a lot of synthesizers, a lot of the virtual synths actually come with presets for making drum sounds, which is very cool, and you should definitely work with that. Try working with that with your productions here to see what kind of new stuff you can do. Okay. Now, the other thing about this is that each one of these can also not only just have an instrument or a sample in it, but each one of these is actually a whole rack in itself. So you've got the drum rack, which is this whole thing, but then each part of it can have a rack inside of it. So for example, this kick drum here, right? This kick drum here, let's say I want it to be kind of thumpier. I can put a plug-in in here, and it doesn't even have to be one that comes with Ableton Live. Let's use Sound Toys, and we're going to use Decapitator here. I just drag it on top of that. I just drag it onto the pad, and it's going to put it right after that. You can hear how it's changed the sound. There we go. And how nice and like kind of deeper it makes it. We can give a little bit of edge to it right there, right? There we go. Let's grab, let's see here. Let's use, for the snare drum sound, let's use Fab Filter's Saturn. Drag it onto the snare right here. And it's going to put it automatically after the snare drum in here. And we'll use this, right, there we go. Cool. Yeah, nice. Okay. Let's see this. The tube. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So you got that there, and so we can have different sounds, different little racks, little chains going on each drum pad, right? So we can combine all this stuff together, and you can combine multiple things. You could even drag a rack into here, something like that. So you could do lots of really cool stuff with this drum rack here. Now, another thing that we can do with this is let's set up some of these samples a little bit differently in here. So let me go ahead and record in this hi-hat pattern here. All right, so we've got that hi-hat pattern in there. And those of you who play drums, if anybody plays a drum kit, you know that the way you make the closed sound on your drum kit, the closed sound, and the open sound is actually the same instrument. It's the hi-hat that's over on the side. And you put your foot down on it to close the hi-hat to make the closed sound. So you hit it with your stick, and it's closed, and it goes tick, 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 a really short sound. And then to make that open sound, you open your foot off of it. You let your foot off, and it opens the hi-hat and makes it a rattlier, more longer sound. So the reason why I'm explaining this is because you cannot have both of those sounds existing at the same time with a drum kit. It doesn't work like that. The hi-hat is either open or it's closed or halfway between. And when you open and close it, it's going to open the sound and close the sound. So is how that works. So with this sample here, I've got my closed sound on this key. I have a different closed sound on this key. But then I have this open sound right here. With this drum kit that I've just made, you can hear them both playing at the same time, and that's not realistic. It also changes the way everything sounds if I have it like that. So what I want to do is I want to set this up so that when I play it, so that it won't play both of them at the same time. Now, if you remember back when we talked about synthesizers, this would be called monophonic versus polyphonic. Monophonic means you're only playing one sound at a time. Polyphonic means you're playing multiple sounds at the same time. So we want this drum kit to be polyphonic, except we want these three keys to be monophonic. So here's how this works. What we're going to do is go over here and open up this little window right here. This shows us our chain of stuff, and we're going to open up the I/O section. Now, the I/O section shows us a couple things. It shows us the receive note, and it shows us the play note. The receive note is what's mapped to your keyboard. You do not want to change that. You basically, unless you have a really good reason to change the receive note, you do not want to change the receive note. The play note changes what pitch is being played by the drum. So you could change that if you want to. It kind of depends if you want to, if you don't want to. So for example, like this clave here, this one here, can I change that? No, that one doesn't change. So because that one's not, that's like this weird instrument that actually doesn't have any kind of way to change stuff, to pitch, which I don't know why it's like that. Or oh, maybe there's a way to change it over here. Nah, looks like no. Anyway, let's say this drum kit here, if I change the play note, I can change the pitch of the sample. So I'm going to put it back to its root note here. Same thing with this rim shot here. I can click on it. I'm using my fingers on the arrow keys to change the pitch. So you can repitch things. So for example, this tom drum here, if I want to take this tom drum and make it a different pitch, I'll make this one a different pitch. There we go. That. Cool. Okay, so I can do that. The other thing I can do is I got my hi-hats here. Well, you see this column here called choke. This is something that's been in samplers for a very, very long time. Ever since I've been using samplers, they've had choke groups. And what this does is it enables certain instruments to stop other ones from playing. So if I put these in the same choke group, we'll just put them all in choke group number 1. You can see that every time I hit a note, it selects it down here. Now these three notes are not going to be able to play together because they're in the same choke group. So now you can see if I play my open hi-hat, it just plays. But if I play my open hi-hat and then I play the closed hi-hat right after it, now it's choking it off. Right? So it's closing it up. So now when we play that hi-hat pattern back, let me just go ahead and show you what it sounded like before. Right? So it does that, but if I put them in the same choke group, now it sounds like more of a realistic kind of hi-hat pattern. Right? So I have that in there, and it makes everything sound more like a real drummer would have it sound. So that's something else you can do with your drum rack here. If you want to have certain sounds cancel out other sounds, then you can just set them up over here in the same choke group. And that's really, really useful. You can also, I believe, the choke groups are actually just assigned to, here, well, what you could do, if we wanted to, we could mute this one, and then you can have just an invisible choke group. You can just set like a blank sound to something or just set it to a key. So you can just have that, so it just chokes it without actually hearing a sound. You can just mute that sound that you throw in there, which is a pretty cool little trick you can do. If you want to have just something that cuts off a sound without anything else happening, then you could do that right there. All right, so we've got these over here. Now let's go ahead and show a couple of these other things here, what's happening over here. So these are the macros. Now the macros are super, super cool. Let's go ahead and show these macros actually in a different instrument. I'm going to map these to something in a different instrument, not in my drum rack right here. Okay, we're just going to keep the drum rack like this. And I'm going to pull over an instrument onto here, and let's grab, let's use one of the sounds that comes with Ableton Live. And we'll use, well, we'll use this analog again. There we go, there's analog. And let's grab let's make a sound real quick. Here's my filter. Here's my oscillator here. And we're going to do that. Cool. I'm going to make it monophonic over here. Unison, no. Voice is 8. Let's make it monophonic. Cool. Let's go back over here and shape this sound here. Pulse width. Okay, there we go. And we're going to put a little filter on it. Awesome. That sounds pretty good. Let's put a sub in here to give it some low end. Give it some real low end. Let's put another one on top here. We're going to put this an octave up. 2 octaves up. I'm going to have this one be a sine and turn it down a little bit. There we go. Sounds pretty good. What's up? How's it going, Shindy? Okay. So in here now, we got this little sound. And let's go ahead and mess with this filter a little bit. Frequency mod envelope here, that's okay. Awesome, that sounds pretty good. And let's put some effects on it. Let's put a chorus. Chorus ensemble here. A little bit of chorusy vibe going on. All right, that's pretty cool. Let's give it some oomph down in the bottom here. Let's put the saturator. Cool. And then let's put a filter, an auto filter here. We're going to flip this around like that. Let's use the MS-20. Cool. All right. So that sounds pretty good. Let's just go ahead and leave it at that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these together. Now remember, the way to do that is really easy. You just click on one of your instruments over here. And you just hold down Shift and click on the other device here at the end. So they're all highlighted in blue there. You hit Command G and it groups them together. So now I put this little group over here and I'm going to open up our macros so I can see more of this here. And this, I usually do this, just keep this open here so I can just see the name. And let's just call this one rough bass. Like that. So now I've got this sound here and it sounds pretty cool. But what I want to do is I want to set this up so I can easily change the sound in real time. And there's a couple things on here that I want to change. Okay, so here's how I can do this, because I could go through and I could use my mouse and move the frequency over here, or I could go over here on the end and I could adjust the auto filter, but that's no fun to do it by using the mouse here. I want to actually do it by using the knobs on my keyboard. Okay, and so here's how we do this. First, I'm going to put my keyboard into Ableton Live mode. And next what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign these macro knobs here, these macros down here, to control different elements of all of these different effects that are in here. So I can use these macro knobs right here to control all of these different elements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide which one I want to do. So I'm going to right click on it and I can assign it to any one of these macro knobs. So I right click on my frequency here and it says map to macro 1. So it just, this pops up and I just map it over there. And now my macro 1 says F1 frequency. Now I'm not using F2 at all, so I'm going to rename this one just to frequency cutoff, like that. Okay, or actually let's call it filter frequency. Yeah, there we go. And let's go ahead and map the second one here to number 2. And this one's going to be filter resonance. Okay, so now all I have to do is turn a knob on my keyboard and it's changing the sound right there. You can see it's messing around with that sound. So I can go ahead and do that. Let's say changes it up quite a bit. Okay, cool. That's cool. Let's also change the oscillator type here with macro 3. So I'm going to right click on this one and map that to macro 3. And you can hear how it changes things up. And I'm also going to map this harmonic here to macro 4. So I'm going to right click on this, map that to macro 4, boom. So now we got that on macro 4. how it totally changes that sound. Cool, it changes that sound quite a bit depending on these various 4 knobs that I've got here. But I can also map these to different things over in here in the whole group. So in the whole rack, anything can be mapped to these macros over here. So let's go over here to my auto filter, and let's say the auto filter, I want to have it so the frequency is on number 5. So this is my auto filter frequency now. Pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and rename that to, whoops, high pass filter. And then let's have it so the resonance goes up as I turn the filter up. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to assign it to the same knob here. Map to high pass filter. I'm going to have it mapped to the same knob. And when I do that, now this knob, here let me go ahead and close this one down so we can see better. This knob here, when I move it, where are we? Whoops, wrong. There we go. It changes the frequency as I move it up. So that resonance goes up. As I get higher. Which is pretty cool. Okay, and finally, let's map the chorus ensemble amount, the dry wet here, to macro 6. And now that's over here. So we'll have this one, chorus, dry, wet. Actually, I'll call it amount. Chorus amount, here's our high pass filter. So we've got all these things mapped here, which is pretty neat. Like we can do this, okay? Now, I'm gonna go ahead and hit save on this again. Because I haven't changed the name or anything, it's gonna save it right on top of the other one. I hit return. And it just puts it right on top of the other one there because I didn't change the name, I didn't swap it out or anything. I'm still working with the same device. All right, so here's where things start to get really interesting though, because let's go ahead and set this up a little bit differently. I mean, it's set up like this, but I don't want this high pass filter to go all the way. I don't want the resonance to go all the way up like that. That's just too much resonance. And when I bring it all the way down here, maybe I want to have a little bit of resonance up here when it's all the way at the bottom. So what I can do is I click on the map button here, and you see up here up top, it shows me different parameters, and I can actually adjust the low and the high parameters of these. The low and the high amount. So for example, when my filter is all the way to the left, I can have it so it has that much resonance right there. So I just pull this percentage up and you can see it actually gives me some like that, and I move it all the way to the right and I can pull this down so it's like that. So now the amount is between this and this. Okay, so if I play that, sounds like a mouth harp. Cool, so I have that there. Let's go ahead and affect a couple of these other ones. Let's see here. The chorus ensemble amount, right now it's all the way from 100 to 0, and that's like a little bit too much. So I'm going to go ahead and put it all the way to the left, and over here, where's my chorus amount? Right up here up top. So up here, I'm going to pull that up to like there on one side, and I move my knob all the way over to the right, and I'm going to dial this in to like right there, because that's enough chorus for this bass sound. There we go. Yeah, we don't need much more. Well, maybe. Well, let's do. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I kind of like it like that when I pull it all the way down. Okay, cool. So what else can we affect here? Let's go over to this one, and let's see. This filter, frequency, everything over here is pretty good. Oh, the volume level of this here, which is oscillator to level. Oh, whoops, hold on. Hold on, let me turn off map. There we go. So now, not that, this one. There we go. So I don't need to be that loud. So I'm going to go ahead and change this down to like that, right there. And then when I go all the way to the left, like that, right there. Cool. So I've just mapped all these and adjusted things. So now when I turn the knob all the way one direction or the other, it doesn't go the whole way. It only locks in with certain, locks in within the amounts that I set. Now this is kind of cool because you can also actually flip these. So if I wanted my knob, for whatever reason, when I turn it left, I want it to go right. What you can do, so for example, this high pass filter amount right here, check this out. If I want to turn my high pass filter, this here, if I want to turn this one so it flips, I just flip these parameters here. I just put this one all the way up and I put this one all the way down. So that way when I turn my knob left and right, it's going to actually do the opposite of what it would normally do. So for example, if I have it like this, now when I turn my knob up, it goes down, and when I turn my knob down, it actually goes up. So it's really weird, and you don't really, it's not something you want to do often. But you know, if you need to do it, you need to do it. But I would say that, you know, it's the type of thing that when you need to have it there, you know, there it is. It's pretty cool that you can have it there. But in general, you're not going to want to flip those. I've used it on stage for things, for like if I want to throw something like a fader, and when I go up, I want it to go down, and when like something for flipping stuff, I've used it a lot. But for knobs, I generally don't use it that much. You can also use this for turning things on and off. So for example, if I just want to have my chorus have an on-off, I can right-click and map this to a knob as well. And now my chorus on-off device, so I can turn the knob, and there it is. So, and that's like, this is pretty cool. So the cutoff is actually 64 and 63. So what you may want to do is just have this set a high point of 64 and a low point, sorry, of 63, yeah. So where's that device on? Minimum is, not that. Where is it? Chorus on off. Oh, well, let me do that. Device on. Oh, here, yeah. So we'll set that to 63 and then max to 64. And that should do it. Let's see. Oh, it's still, I still can throw it the whole way. Yeah, I usually don't set these to knobs because knobs are kind of weird for setting these things up. I'm going to actually delete that off the knob. And the way you delete it is you can just right click on the same thing and just go unmap. So I go over here, I don't want to map it to my device on, I just unmap it from that, and now it turns it off, puts it back. Okay. So something else you can hear here, you can see that when I right click on this, there's actually a lot of options here. There's more than 8 options, but we're only seeing 8 of these macro knobs. What I can do is I can hit the plus button here, and it adds in more macro knobs. And you can have up to 16 macros over here. Yep, you can have 6. You can have, I've got, actually 6 would work fine for me because I only have 6 different parameters being mapped. So you don't have to see all of them. You can have just a couple here, 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Now, another thing that's going on here is that this is a really cool feature. And I'm showing you all of this because I want to get to this next feature that is super, super dope. I'm going to go ahead and put this back down to this, although it does make this area a little bit smaller. Now, over here, we have these things which are called snapshots. They're called macro variations. Sorry, the picture is basically the same as Reactor's snapshots. So that's why I always think of it as snapshots. But this is actually macro variations. And this is super, super cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click the save button here, hit return. It's saying, do you want to save over it? Yeah, I want to save over it. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set this up with a sound that I like. Where are you, sound? Why are we not hearing anything? There we go. Cool. So I got that there. Awesome. Okay, so let's say I like this as kind of I like that as a starting sound. So I'm going to go over here and click New. And this is something it's new for Live 11, I should say. So if you're working with Live 10 or Live 9, you do not have this feature. This is a new thing in Live 11. I think it's new for Live 11. I'm pretty sure it is. So we'll just give this a name, Smooth Bass. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and change these. Cool. Awesome. My chorus is turned off, I think. Yeah. There we go. Should be hearing more chorus. Yeah, much better. Okay, cool. And we'll give this a new variation here. New. And we'll call this one Mouth Harp. There we go. Awesome. Let's get another sound. Let's make a new sound here. Give this a new one. Call this one Acid Bass. Change this. There we go. And now let's go ahead and hit random here. And just see what happens. What this does is it randomizes these knobs here. Yeah, here we'll call this one dark thing. like that. And I can set up different kind of presets. These are like your macro presets. And now I have all these different sounds in here that I can grab with the same setup of effects and everything, which is, for me, one of the coolest features in here. And I've actually spent a lot of time going through and just making new sounds and new variations of sounds in here that are pretty fun. So this is like something that's really cool. It works. It's great for when you are you're not really working on anything, like you're not working on a new song, but you want to keep busy. Then you can go through and start making some presets for yourself, because this really will help out your production flow a lot. A lot of producing quickly and smoothly and professionally is all about having everything set up correctly on the beginning. So this is where you can really do that with this instrument rack like this right here and these macros. These macros are super cool, and it's as I said, it's something kind of new for Live 11. Oh, Sam, you're just joining us. You're missing some good stuff here. We've been talking about the macros in Live 11, and I think you said you're still using Live 10, right? So this would be something new for you to upgrade to Live 11. This is a dope feature here. All right, so. Oh, you just got Live 11? Cool, yeah. So you definitely we should talk about this. Like, you definitely want to watch this part of the video that you just missed, because it is, Live 11 has this macro feature here, which is really cool, this macro variations. All right, so that's that. Let me just give this a save. Hit return. Yes, I want to overwrite it. There we go, boom. So now, of course, I can pull this back. You can see I've got I've got this basic thick, which is basically the same sound I was just working with, because that's a pretty standard sound. I've got this E piano pad here, but this one actually might be using an instrument that I don't have access to right now. Yeah. Oh, it's because it was using a VST. There we go. Yeah. There's the one I made earlier. Cool. Awesome. Okay. So we got those sounds there. So there you go. I mean, that's like a quick overview of what you can do with the instrument racks there, and also the drum racks. So let's go ahead and take a break here. I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording here.